Hey everyone, I just got back a very interesting Blackstone oil analysis for my 2008 BMW M3. I've been doing these for 3 years now. This is the fourth survey. And for those of you that are familiar with this car, the 2008 BMW M3 through 2013 run the S65 4-liter V8. These engines have some history with rod bearings and specifically wiping out the bearings and sometimes wiping out the crank and even the entire engine. There's lots of threads on the internet about this, lots of debate as to whether it's an isolated problem, a rare problem, and there's some remedies out there. There's I think, several different bearing manufacturers. ARP makes replacement rod bolts. Anyways, with that in mind, when I first bought the car, or I should say when I first had it serviced, had the oil changed, I get the service done at the same dealership all the time, and I sent the sample off to Blackstone, and here's what came back. I'm going to try and zoom in here. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'll walk you through it as best I can, but anyways, 58,756 kilometers on the engine. I'm in Canada, so everything I'm talking about is going to be in kilometers. You can multiply it by, I think it's 0.62 to get mileage. Anyways, 58,000 on the car, 14,000 on the oil. And you scan down, you can see on the left-hand side, the column on the far left, all of the metals that Blackstone tests for. It's extensive. I won't read them all out to you, you can see them, but it's amazing what these guys can find in the oil. And on the far right-hand side, we have what they call universal averages. So this is from their database, vehicles with the same engine, similar mileage, what they're finding. So it gives you something to compare to, which is handy if it's your first report. So anyways, we zero in, and mine are great until we get to the elephant in the room, lead. And look at that, 27. I think it's parts per million, don't quote me on it, but you can see what the average should be around 7. So this, you know, I don't think I'd surprise anyone if I said I had a bit of an anxiety attack when that hit. Engine runs fine, it's quiet, it's got fantastic performance. Just a brilliant driving car. So anyways, something to keep an eye on, right? Carry on. So we go another 13,600 kilometers. We're now at 72,000 kilometers total. And look at the lead. It's fallen slightly to 23. Is that because we drove a little bit less, or are things improving? Hard to say. It's a couple of points better. Mileage is slightly lower, but not by much. We go for another 9,700 kilometers, so a much shorter interval between oil changes. But now look at the count. We're down to 16. Now, is that because less mileage between services, or is something happening here? Hard to say. Now the next one is really, I'm stoked about this one. And I'll tell you how I think I got here. So another 9,247 kilometers. We're now at 91,000 on the car. And look at the lead count. I'll zoom in for you. 8. And remember what the universal average was. 7. So I am right on the numbers now. Now, why did we get such an improvement? How do we go from 27 to 8? Well, partly because we went a little bit less perhaps on the oil, but that's a massive, massive improvement. So what I've done, and it looks like it's paying off, and I hope this helps some of you guys out there, I've just have become very, very aware, very cognizant, if you like, of what's going on with this car. So now my regimen is I let it warm up a bit before driving off. Not come up to full temperature because that takes a while on these cars. But at least let it tick over for a minute or two. Drive away. And I drive in as spirited a fashion as any of you out there. But I don't do it until this thing has fully up to temperature. And what I mean by that is when you can get a reading on the oil level then I think you're up to full operating temperature. And you can just tell with mine, you can feel it in the gear shift. The transmission's just a little bit smoother. Once you've got the drivetrain fully warmed up, it probably takes, I don't know, I want to say 8 to 10 miles to get it fully warmed up. Seems like a long way, but the car just genuinely feels better, especially the up and down shifts. And then I spin it hard. I go to about 8,000, rarely much more than that. But I think it's paying off. I think it's lessening the strain on the bearings. So anyways, I'm kind of stoked about this. The improvement anyways. If you haven't done a Blackstone oil analysis, I'd recommend you do it. It's not expensive. They'll send you a sample kit for free. It's very simple to collect the sample and mail it back. And like I said, it's unbelievable what they can detect that's going on inside your oil. So now there is one anomaly on here. I don't know if any of you have picked up on it yet. It's I'm not having a heart attack over, but it's caught everybody's attention. And that's down here. Sodium. 74 parts. And if you look leading up to it, we had 986. I mean, even that was trending downward, and something has spiked it up to 74. Now, some of you are going to say, well, that's coolant in the oil. You've got perhaps a head gasket leak or something similar. Could be, but Blackstone tells me that if you get coolant in the oil, it's usually accompanied by higher levels of potassium. And if you can see the potassium there, it's right on track, 222, 1, and 2. So I don't have an explanation for the sodium. The car is not going through coolant. I'm not adding any. Or I add minuscule amounts of water to it. I mean, like minuscule. It's not even worth putting in probably. I'm just too OCD to leave it alone. Anyways, don't have an explanation for the sodium. Maybe the sample got contaminated somehow. Maybe it's not coolant. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But super pumped about the lead. And I'll just read you here what Blackstone had to say. Oh, just losing my iPad there. There we go. Tim, there's only half as much lead in this sample as there was in the last one. This oil run wasn't much shorter either, so the improvement looks genuine. The rest of the wear metals look great too, so we don't have any concerns about the way your BMW is wearing. Good news, right? I'm happy about that too. But, there's a but in there as you can tell. We are a little uneasy about sodium though. It can show coolant contamination, but the other coolant marker, potassium, reading low, maybe sodium is from some harmless source. If it is coolant, it doesn't seem to be doing any harm. All else looks good. Just check back on sodium next oil change. So anyways, I've gone from lead being a concern to sodium, but anyways, was super concerned about the lead on the bearings, and kind of happy with this one. I thought I'd share it with you guys. I would love to read your comments if you think I'm way off base. If you've seen this before with lead declining, or have an explanation for the sodium levels increasing like they are, I'd love to hear it. But anyways, check out Blackstone Oil Laboratories. I think they're in Indiana. Great service, prompt, not expensive. I think it was maybe $28, but amazing what they can tell you about what's going inside your engine. I think they do other oils as well. It's not just engine oil, probably do differential, transmission, you name it. So anyways, let me know what you think. Take care.